Hi everyone, welcome to KEMBALI 2020, a Rebuild Bali festival, a digital program designed to inspire, excite, reconnect and revitalize the Balinese and Indonesian community from the 29th of October up to the 8th of November 2020. KEMBALI, the Indonesian word for return or come back, represents revitalization in the face of global challenges. The festival will unite people in Bali and Indonesia together with an international audience at a time when travel is largely impossible and creating connections is more important than ever before. We have with us an event today, the book launch of The Sea Speaks His Name. It is the English translation of the novel Laut Bercerita by Leila Chudori, which was first published in the Indonesian language in 2017. We have with us right now the author, Ibu Leila Chudori, the translator of the novel, Mr. John H. McLean, alongside Nora Nazarin Abu Bakar, representing Penguin Random House SEA as the publisher, and Pritagita Arianegara, the director of the short film based on the novel Laut Bercerita, along with Gita Farah, one of the producers. Okay, first of all, I would like to introduce further Nora Nazarin Abu Bakar, which is the publisher. She has over 12 years of experience in the publishing industry. She joined Penguin Random House SEA when it was established in 2018. As an associate publisher, she oversees the editorial direction and shapes the list, which comprises English language adult and children's fiction and nonfiction formats. Nora started her publishing career with Pearson and subsequently spent 11 years in Marshall Cavendish, where she was responsible for growing the profitability of key lists. She is based in Singapore. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you, Kriswan.
Welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. I hope you're well too.
Yes, yes. So do you have something to say about this great event, the public launching of the book? Please.
Yes, of course. Thank you. So, hi everyone. I'm very honored to be here at the launch of The Sea Speaks His Name. Like all of Southeast Asia, Indonesia has a treasure trove of stories which have increasingly caught the attention of readers the world over. We have so much rich culture and history, both diverse and common to many, that we at Penguin Random House feel we need to give a platform for these stories to be read throughout the region and beyond. The only way we can do this is to pick the most powerful works and translate them into a language that would help the stories travel. Now, from the beginning, Leila Chudori was one of the authors I knew I just had to have on our list. So I was overjoyed when I received the manuscript for Laut Bercerita, translated into the English language by John McLean, and what a translation it was. Okay, I can say this because I can read and understand Bahasa, and I actually compared the two versions. It is important that a translation retains the soul of the original story, and John did exactly that. It is like the same person writing, only with two different pens. It is not difficult to understand why this book is getting so much attention. The story of Biru Laut is a story of courage, despair, and the unwavering human spirit, and tries to unravel what actually happened during the 1998 student abductions. My late grandfather, who was from Solo, used to tell me stories of struggles that everyday heroes went through for a better Indonesia. Without these stories, many parts of history will be rarely spoken about, or worse, left buried. And the world will never know about these stories without the good work of literary translators like John McLean. So congratulations again, Leila and John, on this beautiful masterpiece. Let's continue to bring more great stories from Southeast Asia and Indonesia, of course, to the world.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure there will be more to discuss with you later. in the Q&A session. For now, we will go back to the, I will introduce you the star of the show, Ibu Leila Chudori. Leila Salika Chudori is one of Indonesia's most acclaimed writers. Born in Jakarta in 1962, she studied at Trent University in Canada. From 1989 until 2017, Leila worked as a journalist for Tempo. Presently, Leila has a film review program with Tempo called Layar Bersama Leila Chudori. Leila received the Katulistiwa Award for Best Prose for her 2013 work, a novel titled Pulang, or translated as Home. The book has been described by Publishers Weekly as remarkable and was listed in World Literature Today's 75 Notable Translations of 2015. In 2017, Leila published her next novel, Laut Bercerita. The English translation carries the title The Sea Speaks His Name, published by Penguin Random House Southeast Asia. For this work, she has won the Southeast Asia Right Award. Please welcome Ibu Leila Chudori. Hello, Ibu Leila.
Thank you, Kriswan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Nora, for your kind words. And thank you, everyone who attend this launch of The Sea Speaks His Name. I really would like to thank you, Nora and Penguin Random House Southeast Asia publishers who host this evening together with Ubud Writers. As usual, I kind of feel that Ubud Writers have become my home almost every year. And I would like to talk a little bit about the short film that we are going to watch before we're going to have a discussion on the book and the translation with John McGlynn and I. The short movie was made specifically for the launch of the original book in 2017. The idea came from the producers. They read the manuscript before it was published, and they thought that we should make a different kind of launching where people can watch, a short movie of the novel. And I really want to say something not cliche, but it is what it is, that this short movie is really made based on love, because nobody was paid. Everybody really did it because they believe in the story. So I always feel grateful for everybody who's involved in this short movie. It was a 3 days shooting, and the director and the producer will tell you how it was. So again, I want to thank them and thank all the actors and actresses who were involved in this. So I hope everybody enjoys, and we can have a very nice discussion this evening. Thank you again for attending this evening.
Thank you very much, Ibu Leila. And now I'm going to introduce the director of the short film, which we will see today. Pritagita Arianegara, or Gita, was born in Surakarta in 1976 and grew up in Central Java. She graduated with an economics degree from University of Indonesia, Yogyakarta, and then worked in the film industry as a script supervisor for more than 40 films and as assistant director for more than 15 films. 12 years later, she debuted as a film director with Salawaku. Her body of work encompasses 7 films, among which are Surga Yang Tak Dirindukan and Laut Bercerita, which you'll see tonight. And also, we have here with us Gita Farah from Cineria Films, who is one of the producer of this short film. Please welcome Pritagita and Gita.
Hello, Kriswan, thank you.
Welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pritagita Arianegara. I am the director of The Sea Speaks His Name. Thank you for joining us on this blessed and beautiful night. First of all, we, Laut Bercerita's team, would like to thank the Ubud Writers and Readers Festival Committee and friends who have watched and supported this film. And before we begin, we would like to say a few things. Laut Bercerita is a 30-minute short film produced by Yayasan Dian Sastrowardoyo in collaboration with Cineria Films. The film is directed by me and is an adaptation of Leila S. Chudori's novel in the same name, who also wrote our screenplay. Gita, maybe you want to add something?
Thank you, Mbak Prita. Hello, everyone. My name is Gita Farah, and I'm one of the producer for this short films, The Sea Speak His Name. And I like to mention some of the ground rules for the screening. The film has been rated LSF for audience 17 and above. Before the films, we'll be screening our 7 minutes behind the scene footage. And this film is screened only for limited audiences. So to avoid copyrights and piracy issues, it is prohibited to record videos or take photograph of the films while it is being screened. Thank you for your attention and your participation in this film screening, and we hope you enjoy Laut Bercerita or The Sea Speak His Name. Enjoy.
Wow. What a short film, but packed with emotions, intense observation of the times during the 1990s student protestations, and such well-acted film as well. And it leaves us all, I think, gripped to our seats. I've seen that some people said that they are crying now from watching it. It's pretty moving. So yeah, so we will discuss further the contents of the book and also the English translation. I will do the Q&A session now with Ibu Leila and Pak John McGlynn. John McGlynn is a seasoned translator and publisher of Indonesian literature. He has translated several dozen publications under his own name. And through the Lontar Foundation, which he co-founded in 1987, he has ushered into print more than 200 books on Indonesian language, literature, and culture. Thank you very much for being here with us, Pak John. So if you are interested in asking some questions to either Ibu Leila or Pak John or both, please go to the YouTube live chat, write down your questions there, and I will ask them on your behalf to Ibu Leila or Pak John. Thank you very much. So shall we begin? Ibu Leila, Pak John?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'm interested in something very, very probably mundane, and also trivial. But I couldn't help feeling that there is reading your book, there's such a strong presence of the kitchen and the Indonesian culinary traditions that you use here as a literary element in your book. You know, from the story of the aged gudeg seller in Jogja to the character's staunch obsession with garlic and chili. And also about mie instan, which is like our perennial meal for Indonesians. To the reader, at least to me, the device works effectively as the glue that connects different plot elements, while it also helps with your character building. My question is, did the choice to integrate food and food preparation arise from your own intent? Or was it inspired by any of the interviews you had with your sources? For example, by maybe one of your sources tell you how they miss their mothers cooking so much during their abduction. Can you tell us more on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for your question. I think this is a very interesting question because it's a topic that is very close to my heart. The answer is both. It comes from the importance of food, music, and literature in my life, mixed with the interviews from my sources. Actually, for those who have read my previous work, Pulang, which is translated also by John McGlynn, it also involves food, music, and literature. And these three things usually will appear in most of my work. In Pulang or Home, the main character set up a new Indonesian restaurant in Paris. So obviously food will play a strong role in that story. And in the Sea Speaks His Name was based the fact from my interviews with the survivors. Because they told me, especially Nezar, who was my main source, he told me that because most of the time during the kidnap, their eyes were covered most of the time. It was only, they were only allowed to take it off in certain time when they have to go, they have to change places. But most of the time it was covered. So he said that the sense of smell became stronger and stronger, you know, and they said that they could only rely on the sense of smell and sound, because they could only recognize a certain smell and a certain sound. So because of that, and they repeat that over and over again, they also said that after they were released, they always felt, you know, the PTSD, you know, when they hear certain sound and they felt they were back to this ordeal. So because of this story from them, I purposely create that Laut's family as a family who loves food, music and literature, and Laut's mother is a great cook. And from during their childhood, they were, you know, they were taught and to love food and to smell certain herbs in the Indonesian cooking. So it really creates a strong sense of smell, because that's how I was brought up. You know, we all, me and my siblings, we all love food, and we know certain Indonesian food and their smell. So that's how it came to all my stories. Of course, I don't want to force all my characters to have to love food, but it happens. It just happens that way, especially for Home and Laut Bercerita.
Yes, and it has been quite an appetizing read for me. I know it's out of context, but sometimes I would put down the book, and I would just imagine for a little while the taste of what we have just described on the paper. Yes. So now we get into a more serious question. I would like to talk about the feeling of fear, which I believe must be experienced by any victims of abduction. While Biru Laut stands in the book during his prolonged interrogations and even torture, seems to be one of indignation, and sometimes he was irreverent to some extent, I could not sense fear being a dominant element in his psyche during his time. In the book, you repeated the poet's words to not succumb to fear twice.
Yeah.
Perhaps throughout his torture, Biru Laut was energized by the poet's words to be fearless, or was there any other thinking behind it, behind your positioning Biru Laut's emotional landscape as that not dominated by fear?
You're right. Biru Laut's character is heavily influenced by the poet, or Gala. His real name is Gala. Gala, because he's kind of like a mentor to Biru Laut, and he's also heavily influenced by the other character, the leader, Kinan. So both of these characters were really like a mentor, and they're the ones who try to tell him that their struggle, it's real, and he should never succumb to, you know, any fear. But the other thing that maybe if you notice, and I'm sure a lot of other readers notice, that actually there, because, you know, he's human being, so there were times that Biru Laut question, you know, question whether their cause, their movement would be fruitful. You know, the first time when he was arrested in Surabaya and they were tortured, that was the first time he questioned, because he never experienced that before. And I think that happened to a lot of the activists. Usually the first time when they were arrested and they were tortured, they would they would question themselves that, is it worth it, you know, to go through this? And that's what they told me. That's what they told me, that you know, usually at the very first time they were arrested, they would question. But after a while, after several times they were arrested, several times they would be in jail, you know, they kind of become numb, you know, like the way they told the story, it's really casual, like, oh yeah, that was the second time when I was arrested, you know. So for us, you know, the people from like me, I was a journalist then. It was really unbelievable, because I never go through that kind of ordeal, you know. I experienced the New Order repression. The magazine that I work with, Tempo, was banned, but that's about it, you know. And of course there was fear after Tempo was banned. There was fear, but I never go through what they went through. So I have to put them as human being, where they question whether their cause is worth it or not. But at the same time, they said that they have to go through it. They have to get rid of all this fear. So that's what I try to express in the novel.
Yeah. And I think also the issue of fear, I would like to dig in further in the character development of what I think is one of the more exciting and also fully developed character in the book, which is in the form of Asmara Jati, Biru Laut's younger sister. She, in the first part of the book, where Biru Laut narrates, she is pictured as someone who is often worried and sometimes quite nosy about her brother's actions that might put him in trouble. And in the second part of the book, when you take her own viewpoint, the worrying you can still feel there, but she does not seem to express much fear during. This is the viewpoint that you described years after the event took place, the abduction took place, and it seems to me that the main driver of her character here is something that is more logic based, and you probably have gave us the foreshadowing by giving her an interest in science before that, when she studies to become a doctor, and the way that you describe her. You again wanted, it seems to me that you wanted to remove this feeling of being subjugated by fear from the character's growth, from the character's perspectives. So how important is it to you to emphasize through your writing that no matter what happens to your characters, and also to the readers, hopefully, fear should not take hold of us?
Yeah. Well, you know, first of all, I would like to say that, you know, in most of my work, whenever I portray death, you know, in Nadira, for example, or in Pulang, there's a lot of death. And here in Laut Bercerita, I always think that, because, you know, most of us experience, you know, maybe your father or maybe your mother or maybe one of your close one in the family died. There has to be someone who's very logical and really doing all the, you know, the profound thing, like, you know, working for the burial, and, you know, and they have to be so rational, and they have to keep their sadness, keep away their sadness, and they will feel later on, you know, like that's what I felt, that I have to cry later on when my father died, you know. So Asmara is someone like that. In the family, she has to be the voice of reason. So at the beginning, as you said, Asmara is someone who's just concerned about her study, and she's a typical straight A student, and she doesn't really understand what is her brother doing with all this, you know, cause and demonstration. She really doesn't understand that, but she loves her brother. She tried to respect whatever he's doing, but you can tell that she is a very studious student, and she's the only one who care about Laut finishing his study.
Yes,
Remember?
that's true. Yeah, yeah.
So, but at the end, when Laut was adopted, and there's no way that they could ever find out what happened to Laut, then we feel that she changed. You know, her character developed. But the thing is, in the whole house, everybody was they deny the fact that Laut is never coming back. The parents are not functioning. They create their own world, their own
Bubble.
universe where maybe Laut is coming back. And of course, this is based on a lot of my interviews, because some parents, to a certain extent, they still believe that their children will come back, you know. So
Yeah.
Asmara is the voice of reason in the house. She tries to, you know, to go on, and because without her, the household will crumble.
Yeah.
So that's why I think in every household there will be one person who will take care of everything when the tragedy took place. That's why I think that I kind of need Asmara to be that person.
Yeah, we have a question from a reader that has a very direct connection to what we have just discussed here about fear. This one is from Kamla Lewis, who asked that you mentioned that during the New Order you experienced fear. How did you overcome your own fear?
Well, like I said, I didn't experience like all this student experience, but Tempo was banned that time, and during my time in Tempo before the ban, we have this tradition. Whenever we write something a bit crazy and we know that it's a little bit over the line in the perception of the government, we know that the next edition has to be a little bit soft news.
Okay.
Yeah, we would call it edisi tiarap, which means that, you know, an edition where we're being soft. Like we are going to write things like film, or like, you know, something that it's not politics. And then after so many months, things are okay. And then we start talking about, you know, the business of the, you know, one of the government people or something like that. So we're kind of used to that life. So when Tempo was banned at the beginning, it really sunk in quite for a while. But I was pregnant that time, and then we decided to go down, you know, went to the parliament, and went to Ministry of Information, which now, you know, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
We went to all these places to be engaged in a demonstration, and I was pregnant that time, which is crazy. And a lot of people joined us, Rendra the poet, and there was a very famous painter. His name is Samsar Siahaan, the late Samsar. So it was a big thing when Tempo was banned. And that's one way for me to overcome my fear, because we were all together in this. Like, I wasn't alone, we were all together, not only Tempo people, but people who believe in Tempo and who's not happy about the fact that we were banned. So.
Right, thank you very much. There's another one from Fikriyah Azari, who said that I really enjoy this program. My question is, what is Bu Leila's biggest fear when Laut Bercerita was published for the first time? And what were your hopes when you wrote this story?
Well, our fear, my publisher and I, not only me, we were not really worried about the government that time in 2017. We were not worried about it. We were worried about people in general, because, you know, Indonesian people now is very conservative. It's so different from in 1990s. And sometimes people misunderstood what we're trying to say. So we specifically really choose the launching in a place that is very, how do you say, dijaga. The security was very, very
well guarded. Yeah.
Well guarded. So we chose in Ifi, in Tamrin,
Right.
and it was
Yes.
very well guarded. Like whenever people come in, you have to give your ID and everything.
Yes.
So we were careful that time. So it's like, you know, testing the water. But then
Right.
apparently the readers and people gave a positive reaction. So then we start to go around Java Island. Like we went to campuses in Jawa Timur and Jawa Tengah, you know, all over. And we even went to Sulawesi, to so many places. The film went everywhere, and we even went to Los Angeles. So we, at the very beginning, we had to know how people feel about the novel and also about the short film.
Yeah. And so the another question from Kadenza Tamara. Can you tell us, Bu Leila, what are the main challenges when doing research in novel writing, and then the process of becoming a film script and the process of translating this novel, which I think would be reserved for Pak John to answer.
John.
But yes, but first, Bu Leila.
For the research, because I'm a very, very, very slow writer, and at that time I was still working full time for Tempo, so I could only do the research during weekends. And at the beginning, it was a lot of interviews with the survivor and the family. And I think that was the part of the difficult part, because interviewing the families, although it has happened so many years ago, this is about member of their family who's missing, and the similar thing that from one family to another family always say the same thing, that if my son passed away, they please just tell me where I can find the body so we can have a proper burial.
So they wanted
because
closure.
It's very important. Yeah, they want closure, and it's important for Indonesian to have a cemetery. So that's from one family to another family. It's always the same thing, and it's very difficult for me to hear that. It's very sad. And the other difficult thing is I also went to several places where I imagine that's where it happened. Like I went to Pulau Seribu. Do you say Thousand Islands? Yeah. Okay, Pulau Seribu, and I also went to Solo. I went to a university, the campus, Universitas Gajah Mada, because most of the characters study there. I know that I didn't really have to go there because this is fiction, imagination, but I kind of want to have the feel of it. Like I'm a city person. I've never been to a sawah before, to a paddy field, and the Belangguan chapter was real. Like they were hunted down by the military. So I really wanted to know, how does a corn field look like? So I really went to a cornfield just to know how, because I want to recreate the scene where they were hunted down and they were trying to get out and run away from the military.
Yeah, and the process of translating it, not to English, but first from the novel to a film script. Can you tell us more about the challenges in there?
Well, it was really quite fast, because when the first time Wisnu, which he's the head manager of Dian Sastrowardoyo, and he's also involved in the Dian Sastrowardoyo Foundation. He told me that, look, let's make a short movie out of this. And I said, well, how are we gonna do it? Because movie sounds like really big for me. And he said, no, let's just make a short one. So at the very beginning, he said, and I said, I'll make the script, but I have to go because I already have commitment to go to Australia, to Ubud, and to so many places. And he said, don't worry, just write the script and then we'll do the rest. So at the beginning, we already form a team, you know, the director and all the producers and everything. I wasn't really involved too much on the casting. And they said, okay, just 10 minutes. So at the beginning, we were planning just to show the, the kidnap, the jail scene. That's all. 10 minutes of jail scene, and they were talking, and that's it. But then, the director Prita said, why don't we show a little bit of the, family thing, and why don't we show the underwater, and why don't we show? So there's some additional. So I finally, okay, so I start to rewrite the whole thing, and I made as if that this is a letter from Laut to us, So it's a very short version of this novel where Laut was telling a story to us. So, and it was quite fast because I had to go to Australia at that time. So when they were doing the shooting and everything, I wasn't too much involved. I only came once, and that's it.
Right, but it was very, very satisfying. I think the result was an incredible piece. And for Pak John, what was the biggest challenge when doing the translations of this novel? And I would like to add one more question, which is related to that. One from Nisa Amalia, who asked, did you find any difficulties on translating this book, especially since this book is related to Indonesia's dark history? There you go.
Well, like many Indonesians, I have lived through Indonesia's dark history. I've been here 40 years, so longer than most Indonesians have. I fully understand the new order and the consequences of suppression on free speech. This is why books like Leila are so important. They illustrate not just the history of Indonesia during that period, but the role that people played, real people played in changing history.
Yeah.
Now, as a seasoned translator of, well, I'm 68 years old, so as a seasoned translator, I didn't find Leila writes very well. I mean, the thing is, I love translating her work because for me it's relatively easy. In fact, the challenge is to create in English something that is just as appealing in English to the reader as it would be in Indonesian. And that's, you never know if that's going to happen or not, because the reader's mindset abroad is completely different. And Leila includes so much history in her books that maybe the foreign reader will say, oh, geez, what is this, a history lesson? Or is this a drama? But I choose a book to translate, and there's no shortage of good books to translate from Indonesian. But I choose a book to translate because it has something to say about Indonesia that I think needs to be known abroad.
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully answered your question.
Well, hopefully, I think that is quite clear. I think it's pretty clear that you exposed your own challenges when dealing with the writing. And there is a question here from somebody called Plotless Twist. It's for Pak John. Translating a piece of work requires numerous considerations. What are the key points that you try to maintain in the translation from the original work? And I would like to add here that since I read both the English and the Indonesian versions of the book, there are some sentences that mainly the utterances from the characters, which in the original novel are in a local language, Javanese. Some of these you put verbatim in the translation, followed by what they mean or an explanation of what they are in English. But some of them, some others you just directly translate it into English. So I think it's connected somewhat to the question from Plotless Twist. What are the key considerations that you try to maintain in the translation? Thank you.
I think the key is veracity. I mean, you want truthfulness, verisimilitude in a translation. You can't you can't recreate. The translator does not have a responsibility to make something better. You work with what you have.
True.
Fortunately, Leila's book was a wonderful book, and so we didn't have to improve it. It's looking at what is acceptable in the target language, i.e., in this case, English. Now, the use of Javanese, for example. Now, a lot of the Javanese in Leila's book, frankly, most of the readers would understand either by context or because, you know, a majority of the population in Indonesia is Javanese.
And familiarity as well.
Yeah. Unlike when in English, nobody would understand that Javanese. So if you include all this Javanese all the time, people will get frustrated. So what you do is you indicate that they are speaking in Javanese by sometimes throwing in, you know, what they've said, what they have said. But look at later in the book. Alex, I think, is singing a song from or Anjani is remembering a song from Sumbawa.
From Flores, I think.
From Flores, sorry, yeah. Flores. I did not translate that.
Yeah.
Because very few Indonesians reading the book would understand it either.
Yeah.
So it's not made to be understood. But
yeah.
If it's something that needs to be translated, then you translate it.
Yes. Thank you very much. I hope that is pretty clear as an answer. And there is a question I think that is relevant to both Bu Leila and Pak John here. Again, I think connected to the previous explanation by Pak John. The question is from Suarane. How do you think English readers can relate to this novel, specifically to those not familiar with Indonesian politics? Either of you can start first, I think.
Well, every good story has certain elements. You know, you can have sex, love, violence, whatever. They travel around the world, just as does food, which Leila, of course, likes to incorporate in her books as well. So, I mean, so if you have a good story, it doesn't matter where it's set. Yes, things that are very specific make it difficult sometimes. But you have to remember that in the West, we have had no shortage of violence towards civil citizens. Look at Argentina, I mean, look at the countries around the world that have gone through this kind of same horror. So it's a universal experience. So you don't have to know specifics of Indonesian history to get the drama, the emotion of the book.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Ibu Leila, do you have any comment on how do you think the English readers can relate to this novel, specifically those not familiar with the politics of Indonesia?
I think John already answered it perfectly. I think the most important thing is the drama. So it doesn't matter where it comes from. And John already mentioned that Argentina, you know, the countries in South America experience the same thing then. And actually, the students here admitted that when they were having discussions, you know, underground discussions, they were all inspired by the movement in Latin American countries, you know.
Yeah.
And besides that, they were also inspired by South Korea and the Philippines. They really studied what happened in South Korea in 1987 and also the Philippines in 1986. It was really specifically mentioned in the book as well. So although that this is a story on Indonesia, but like John said, that, you know, violation of human rights is so universal. So usually what happened when I met a lot of people abroad, after they read the book and they would try to find out deeper about Indonesia.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. There are many questions that I see here on the YouTube live chat, and we have about 10 minutes remaining. So I think I'm going to pick some of them. I would, okay, here's one from Awi Chin. Just a moment. And also from Nadia Safina. I think both have similar theme. Nadia Safina asked, hi Bu Leila, I've always adored your writing. I like writing myself. And I want to ask you, what are your tips on writing scenes that involve many emotions, like the scene with Asmara and her mother? And meanwhile, Awi Chin asked, Bu Leila, I'm currently writing a story with a similar background, which is the riot of 1998. Sometimes I had to stop because it triggered my own trauma. I was a kid back in 98. Is there any tips to overcome that? I think both deal with personal emotions here. So do you have some comments on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I understand that feeling, because I experienced that. But I think you should remember all your plans to write, you know, your plot, your characters, and you have to be very loyal to your characters. But of course, like any other writers, like you, Awichin, I'm reading your book. We always insert our own emotions in our character, you know. So there is a little bit part of me in some of the characters in Laut. There is a bit of me in Pulang's character, not necessarily one character, but several characters. And usually it's about the emotion. For example, like I already mentioned Asmara, because she has to be the voice of reason in the family, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how I felt, you know, when things happen, and then I have to think rationally about what to do. And then I always tell myself, okay, I'm going to cry later. After everything is done, you know, everybody is back to their work, and then I will cry. So that's how I sort of channel myself towards Asmara's character. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether it works or not. I don't know, but some people said it did. You know, a lot of said that the Asmara characters, Asmara segment was touching or whatever. But I always feel that there's certain of yourself, of the author's feelings, will be inserted in some of your characters, and I think that's how I do it. This is answering Safina, Nadia Safina, you said, yeah.
Yes.
So the feeling, the emotion has to be real, and that's why I felt that I don't want to be fake. I remember reading Ernest Hemingway always said that, please don't make a fake character. Please don't create a fake emotion. And the way I do it is I insert my own feeling towards my character.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I think we have time for one more question. There is from Beatrix Yahaan, a question for Pak John. You translated Pulang and Laut Bercerita. How is the translating experience of Laut Bercerita different from that of Pulang?
Not very different at all. In fact, it's like one part of the same story. And I know that Leila is working on yet another book that ties in with this, so it might be seen as a trilogy. And after that one's done, actually, I would like to go back and, you know, kind of redo it so that it looks like a real, like a real trilogy. But the characters are very real. I came to Indonesia in 1976 as a college student, and I grew up with the characters in Leila's novels. So I find them very familiar, and I want to tell their stories too.
Yeah, and here's a question that would like to know whether Pak John has any inspiration that made you start translating Ibu Leila's works. In this case, specifically about Laut Bercerita, was it inspired by a certain thing?
As I said, I mean, I started working as a translator in 1977. So when Leila was a little girl. But what I've always wanted to do is tell important parts of Indonesian history to the foreign reader. Yeah. And what I found in Leila's work is especially important information that needs to be conveyed through literature as opposed to the mass media, through the news media. I think that only literature can convey the emotion of an historical event. The mass media does not do that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that question was from Nisa Adiaranti. I hope Pak John gave you a clear explanation to your question. This is a short question here. I think we can go with it. This Rikrik Fuad Wahab asked a question. How long did it take for you to write the book from the beginning, Bu Leila?
I started the research in 2013, and then I started writing in 2016. I actually John and also my editor in Gramedia know about this. Actually, I was trying to write the sequel of Pulang. It's called Namaku Alam. But I think during those years after Pulang, I've been going around United States and Australia to several cities and talking so much about 1965 and Pulang. So when I started writing Namaku Alam, I kind of felt, I couldn't continue. I had to stop, and I have to kind of have a space, So I told John. I also told Gramedia. I told Christine, my editor. I said, "Can I just?" I said, "Belok," go to another way. And I think I'm gonna write Laut Bercerita because I've been doing the research as well, from 2013 to 2016, and and I think my Indonesian publisher was like, whatever you write, just please do it. It's like, please, because it takes a while for me to write. I'm a really slow writer. So by that time, because they said, okay, sure. So I start writing Laut Bercerita at the end of 2016. And apparently it worked well. Like, I didn't stop. It was very smooth. And my editor gave a timeline. And then it came out just right when Ubud Writer in 2017. October, yeah. So there was a soft launch in Ubud, 2017. And then the real launch was in Jakarta, December 2017.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for Bu Leila and Pak John, and also for everyone here who was involved in the event today. It has been a great honor and also very exciting time. 1.5 hours already. That was quite fast. Thank you very much for spending your time here with us today.
Thank you, everybody.
And I hope you enjoyed it as much as we all here did. So thank you very much. Kembali 20 was made possible with the support of Yayasan Mudra Suari Saraswati Patron Program and their donors. The Patron Program was created to seek assistance for the survival of both festivals and the foundation. By making a valuable contribution to the Yayasan Patron Program, you will be directly involved in delivering both festivals in due time. Your contribution will guarantee the future of Indonesia's most meaningful cross-cultural platform of words, ideas, creativity, culture, and the creative arts. Follow Ubud Writers Festival on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or visit ubudwritersfestival.com for more information about the Patron Program. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning into this program, and see you in another time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.